You're a lot taller than I expected. What happened next stunned her. Wild West stories. She had grown up in a small city in the East, where the streets were paved, and people moved quickly from one place to another. Life there was orderly, predictable, and safe. But the tales she had read about dusty towns, wide-open plains, and the rugged people who lived there had filled her imagination for years. She had always wondered what it would be like to see the West for herself, to walk through a town where strangers could be friends or foes in the blink of an eye. So, when the opportunity came to travel westward, she didn't hesitate. The journey had been long and tiring. Clara had traveled by stagecoach for days, the landscape changing slowly from familiar green fields to vast stretches of brown and gold. The wind in the open plains carried a dry, dusty scent, and the sun beat down relentlessly. She had seen few towns along the way, only small clusters of buildings where weary travelers could rest. Each time she stopped, she felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness, wondering what awaited her in the next place. Finally, she arrived at a small town that seemed to be frozen in time. Wooden buildings lined the main street, their paint faded from years of sun and wind. The sound of horses' hooves clattering on the dusty road echoed between the buildings, mixing with the occasional shout from a shopkeeper or the jingle of a bell from the general store. Clara's heart raced as she walked along the wooden sidewalk, taking in every detail: the weathered signs, the creaking of old doors, the smell of fresh bread from the bakery. Everything felt new, strange, and exciting all at once. She had heard that the town's saloon was the best place to learn about local news and meet people. Saloon life in the Wild West had a reputation for being lively, sometimes chaotic, but always interesting. Clara was curious to see it for herself, so she pushed open the swinging doors and stepped inside. The room was dimly lit by lanterns, casting a warm, flickering glow over the worn wooden floor. The scent of strong coffee, smoke, and something faintly sweet filled the air. A few men and women were scattered around, talking quietly or playing cards. The soft sound of a piano drifted from a corner, though no one seemed to be paying much attention to it. Clara felt a little nervous. She was used to city life, where people rarely stared and everyone knew their place. Here, she was new, and everyone seemed to be sizing her up. She took a deep breath, trying to steady herself, and walked toward the bar. The bartender, a stout man with a friendly smile and a thick mustache, nodded at her. "What'll it be, miss?" he asked in a warm, welcoming voice. Clara ordered a simple coffee, hoping to appear confident. As she waited, she looked around the room, noticing the mix of faces, some friendly, some stern, some simply curious. Her eyes finally settled on a man leaning casually against the bar a few feet away. He was tall, much taller than anyone she had expected to meet, and his broad shoulders seemed to fill the space around him. He wore a wide-brimmed hat that shaded his face, and his long coat hung loosely over his frame. He didn't seem to notice her at first, simply observing the room with quiet attention. Clara found herself staring, a little embarrassed but unable to look away. There was something about him that made her heart beat faster, something calm yet commanding. When he finally spoke, his voice was deep, smooth, and confident. "Haven't seen you around here before," he said, his tone polite but curious. Clara blinked, suddenly aware that he was looking directly at her. She hadn't expected him to speak, and for a moment her mind went blank. Then, without thinking too much, she blurted out, "You're a lot taller than I expected." The man's eyes twinkled with amusement. He chuckled softly, not in a mocking way, but as if her honesty had genuinely surprised him. "I get that a lot," he said, tipping his hat slightly. "Name S. Jake." His handshake was firm but not rough, a simple gesture that somehow made Clara feel more at ease. She introduced herself, her voice a little shaky at first but gaining confidence as the conversation continued. They talked briefly about the town, the weather, and where each of them had come from. Jake had traveled through several small towns in the West, often staying just long enough to lend a hand when needed before moving on. His stories were simple yet fascinating, filled with moments of unexpected kindness, quick thinking, and the occasional danger that came with frontier life. Clara listened intently, captivated by every word. She realized that this man, with his towering presence and calm demeanor, seemed to carry a sense of experience and wisdom that she had never encountered before. Despite his size and the stories of his travels, there was something gentle about him. He didn't boast or try to impress her. Instead, he spoke quietly, observing more than talking, yet when he did speak, his words carried weight. Clara found herself relaxing, laughing at his small jokes, and even sharing a few stories of her own life back east. For the first time in a long while, she felt truly seen, not judged or sized up like she often had been in the city. As the conversation went on, other patrons began to take notice. Some exchanged curious glances, while others whispered quietly. Clara felt a mix of embarrassment and pride, realizing that she was standing beside someone remarkable, someone who drew attention without demanding it. It was clear that Jake had an effect on people, not just because of his height, but because of his presence, his confidence, and the way he seemed to understand the world around him. Time passed quickly, though it hardly felt like it. The sun outside was beginning to dip toward the horizon, casting long shadows across the saloon's wooden floor. Clara realized that she had spent hours talking and listening, completely absorbed in the moment. For someone who had just arrived in a new town, the feeling was extraordinary. This chance encounter had brought warmth, curiosity, and a sense of adventure that she hadn't expected to find so soon. Before she knew it, it was time to leave. Clara felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness. She didn't want the conversation to end, yet she knew she would have to return to her small rented room for the night. Jake smiled at her, handing her a small piece of advice about the town and its people. "Don't be afraid to ask questions," he said gently. "Everyone here has a story, and most are happy to share it if you're willing to listen." Clara thanked him, her mind spinning with the day's events. She stepped out into the fading sunlight, the air cooler now, but still carrying the scent of dust and adventure. As she walked back along the wooden sidewalks, she thought about Jake, not just about his height, but about the calm, steady way he had carried himself, the kindness in his voice, and the way he had made her feel like she belonged, even for just a little while. That night, Clara lay awake in her small room, replaying the day in her mind. She thought about the saloon, the town, the people, and most of all, the man who had startled her with his height but had impressed her even more with his presence. She realized that sometimes, the first impression of someone's appearance could be misleading, and that true character revealed itself in small moments, in quiet gestures, and in unexpected acts of courage or kindness. For Clara, that day marked the beginning of a new chapter in her life. She had come to the West looking for adventure, but she had found something more, a sense of possibility, a connection with someone intriguing, and the realization that life could surprise her in ways she had never imagined. The words, "You're a lot taller than I expected," had been just the start, a simple observation that opened the door to an experience far richer and more meaningful than she could have anticipated. As she drifted off to sleep, Clara felt a mixture of excitement and anticipation. She knew that the town, the people, and Jake would continue to teach her lessons she couldn't yet foresee. She was ready to embrace whatever came next, knowing that her journey had only just begun. Clara woke up the next morning feeling a mix of excitement and nervousness. The previous day had been unlike anything she had ever experienced. The dusty town, the saloon, and especially Jake had left a strong impression on her. She couldn't stop thinking about him, the way he had carried himself, the calmness in his voice, and the stories he had shared about life in the Wild West. Clara knew she wanted to see him again, to learn more about the town through his eyes, and perhaps to understand the kind of person he truly was. After a quick breakfast at the small inn where she was staying, Clara decided to visit the saloon once more. She walked along the wooden sidewalks, her boots clicking softly against the planks. The town was already alive with activity. Farmers were leading their horses to water, merchants were arranging goods outside their shops, and children were running in and out of the streets, their laughter echoing in the morning air. Clara felt a sense of belonging, even though she was still new to this place. There was a rhythm to the town, a way people moved and interacted, and she wanted to be part of it. When she entered the saloon, she noticed Jake immediately. He was sitting near the corner, quietly watching the room, just as he had the day before. His tall frame seemed even more commanding in the morning light, and the subtle smile on his face made Clara's heart skip a beat. She approached him cautiously, wondering if he would remember her. To her relief, he greeted her warmly. "Good morning, Clara," he said, his voice calm and welcoming. "Back so soon," Clara nodded, trying to keep her composure. "I thought I might learn a bit more about the town," she replied. She felt a little shy, but at the same time she wanted to be brave, to show that she was willing to step into this world and understand it. Jake's eyes sparkled with amusement. "Well, you're in the right place. The town has its stories and I've got a few of my own. If you're ready, I can show you around a bit." Clara felt a surge of excitement. To explore the town with someone like Jake was an opportunity she couldn't pass up. They stepped outside and the sunlight warmed their faces. The streets were busier now, with people moving about their daily routines. Jake walked confidently beside her, his presence both protective and reassuring. Clara noticed how people in the town greeted him with nods or friendly waves, and she realized that he wasn't just tall, he was respected. That respect came not from fear, but from the way he carried himself and interacted with others. As they walked, Jake told Clara about the town's history. "This place has seen its share of trouble," he explained. "There were days when the saloon was the safest place in town, believe it or not. People from surrounding areas would come here, and sometimes trouble followed. But most of the townsfolk are honest and hardworking. It's just a matter of keeping an eye out for the unexpected." Clara listened closely, fascinated by the stories of resilience and courage. The town had its challenges, but it also had a sense of community that she had rarely seen elsewhere. They passed the general store, where the shopkeeper greeted Jake warmly. "Morning, Jake. Helping the sheriff today?" he asked. Jake nodded. "We've got some trouble on the outskirts. Might need to keep watch." Clara was curious. "Trouble?" she asked. Jake explained that a gang had been causing problems in nearby areas, stealing cattle and supplies from local farmers. While the sheriff managed the law, he often needed help from people who could move quickly and think on their feet. Jake had offered his assistance because he had experience dealing with situations like this. Clara felt a mixture of admiration and concern. She had heard about the dangers of the Wild West, but hearing about them firsthand made it more real. She wondered if Jake had faced the gang before, and what kind of dangers he had encountered. But instead of fear, she felt inspired. Jake seemed calm and confident, not reckless, and that made her believe that ordinary people could do extraordinary things when needed. They continued walking until they reached the outskirts of town, where the fields stretched wide and the horizon seemed endless. Horses grazed peacefully and the wind carried the smell of fresh grass and dust. Jake paused, scanning the area carefully. "This is where we've seen signs of trouble," he said quietly. Clara looked around, noticing broken fences and hoof prints in the dirt. She realized that the stories were not just tales, they were real, and the people of the town depended on each other to stay safe. Over the next few days, Clara spent more time with Jake, learning not just about the town, but about the people who lived there. She met farmers who worked from sunrise to sunset, shopkeepers who knew every face in town, and children who dreamed of adventures beyond the plains. She saw how Jake interacted with them all, with respect, patience, and quiet humor. He never boasted about his size or strength. Instead, he listened, helped, and guided. Clara found herself learning more about courage and kindness in these few days than she ever had before. One afternoon, as Clara walked through the town square, a sudden commotion caught her attention. A horse had broken free from its tether and was running wildly, causing chaos among the townsfolk. People shouted, trying to get out of the way, while others tried to catch the horse. Clara froze for a moment, unsure of what to do. But before she could react, Jake appeared at her side, moving quickly and confidently toward the horse. He spoke in calm, firm tones, guiding the animal and preventing it from running into the crowd. Clara watched in awe as he handled the situation with skill and bravery. Once the horse was safely secured, the townspeople gathered around, praising Jake for his quick thinking. Clara felt a mix of relief and admiration. She realized that his height and presence were only part of what made him remarkable. It was his calmness under pressure, his ability to act decisively, and his genuine care for others that truly set him apart. She found herself smiling, feeling proud to know someone like him, and grateful for the opportunity to witness his courage firsthand. After the incident, Jake and Clara walked together along the quiet streets, the excitement of the day slowly fading. They talked about small things, favorite foods, childhood memories, and dreams for the future. Clara felt a connection growing between them, one that went beyond the thrill of adventure. She realized that trust and friendship were built not just on shared experiences, but on understanding, respect, and the willingness to see the best in others. As evening approached, the sky painted itself with shades of orange and pink, and the town began to settle into a peaceful rhythm. Clara returned to her room, feeling a sense of fulfillment she had never experienced before. She thought about the days ahead, the challenges she might face, and the lessons she would continue to learn. Most of all, she thought about Jake, not just as a tall, imposing figure, but as a person who had shown her the true meaning of courage, kindness, and connection. That night, as she lay in bed, Clara reflected on her journey so far. She had come to the West seeking adventure, but she had found something even more valuable: friendship, understanding, and a glimpse into a way of life that demanded strength, patience, and compassion. The town, with its dusty streets and hardworking people, had welcomed her in a way she hadn't expected. And at the center of it all was Jake, the man who had stunned her with his height and then captivated her with his heart. Clara realized that her initial surprise at Jake's height was only the beginning. The real wonder was discovering the depth of his character, the courage he displayed in everyday life, and the quiet way he made everyone feel safe and valued. She understood that first impressions were just a small piece of the puzzle. True understanding came from observing, listening, and sharing experiences, something she was now doing every day. With that thought, Clara drifted into sleep, her mind filled with the possibilities of tomorrow. She knew that more adventures awaited, challenges that would test her courage, and moments that would inspire her to grow. But she felt ready, grounded in the knowledge that she was not alone, and that people like Jake made the world feel both exciting and safe. The next few days passed with a strange mix of calm and tension. Clara had begun to feel like she belonged in the town, but she also sensed that life in the Wild West was never completely peaceful. People worked hard, faced challenges daily, and relied on each other for survival. She had learned a lot from Jake: how to observe the land, understand the moods of the animals, and read the expressions of people. But now she began to realize that real danger could appear without warning. One morning, Clara noticed an unusual silence as she walked through the town square. Normally, the streets were filled with the sounds of merchants calling out their goods, children laughing, and the occasional clatter of hooves. But today the town seemed tense, as if everyone was holding their breath. She soon discovered why. A few townsfolk were gathered near the sheriff's office, whispering and pointing toward the horizon. Clara walked closer, curiosity and concern growing with each step. Jake was already there, his tall figure standing out among the crowd. His eyes scanned the fields, calm but alert. "What's happening?" Clara asked quietly as she approached him. Jake's expression was serious. "There's trouble on the outskirts," he said. "A gang has been spotted nearby. They've been raiding cattle, stealing supplies, and causing problems for the neighboring towns. The sheriff is worried they might come here next." Clara felt a chill run down her spine. She had heard stories of bandits and gangs in the West, but seeing the worry in the townspeople's faces made it real. Jake, however, seemed steady and confident. He explained that the town had dealt with smaller threats before, and that the sheriff had a plan in place to protect the people. But he also said that everyone needed to be ready to help, no matter how small the task. Clara realized that life here required courage from everyone, not just the men with guns. Over the next few hours, the town sprang into preparation. Farmers secured their livestock, shopkeepers reinforced their doors, and families made sure everyone knew where to go if danger approached. Clara found herself helping in small ways, carrying supplies, delivering messages, and learning about the town's alert system. She noticed how the townspeople respected Jake, not only for his strength but for his calm leadership. He moved among them quietly, offering advice, calming worries, and encouraging people to stay organized. Clara admired his ability to lead without being loud or forceful. As the sun rose higher in the sky, a group of riders appeared in the distance. Clara's heart raced as she saw them approaching. They were the gang Jake had mentioned, moving quickly across the plains. The townspeople tensed, preparing themselves for what might come. Clara looked to Jake for guidance. He motioned for her to stay close and whispered, "Just stay calm. Watch and learn, don't panic." His voice was steady, and Clara found herself taking comfort in it, despite the fear she felt. The gang entered the outskirts of town, and the tension in the air grew thicker. They were rough-looking men, riding fast and shouting as they moved. Some townsfolk hid inside their homes, while others, guided by Jake and the sheriff, took positions to protect the town. Clara stayed behind the safety of a wooden fence, watching carefully. She saw Jake step forward, his tall figure visible to everyone, yet moving with careful precision. He spoke to the gang in a calm, firm voice, warning them to leave. The leader of the gang sneered, but for a moment there was hesitation. Clara realized that Jake's presence alone had an effect. His confidence and calmness made even dangerous men pause. The standoff lasted only a few tense minutes, but it felt much longer to Clara. She watched as townsfolk worked together, guided by Jake and the sheriff. Buckets of water were prepared in case of fire, ropes were ready to secure animals, and those who were able helped block the gang's path. Clara's heart pounded, but she focused on helping where she could. She realized that courage wasn't just about facing the gang. It was about staying calm, helping others, and being part of a team when the situation demanded it. Suddenly, a commotion erupted near the general store. One of the gang members tried to steal supplies, but a young farmer stepped forward to stop him. Clara gasped as she saw the danger unfold, but Jake was immediately there. In a few swift movements, he intervened, using his strength and presence to prevent the man from causing harm. Clara felt a mix of relief and admiration. It wasn't just his size that mattered. It was the way he acted decisively, protecting others without unnecessary aggression. After the gang realized the town was prepared and that Jake and the sheriff were not to be underestimated, they reluctantly rode away, disappearing over the horizon. The townspeople let out a collective sigh of relief, gathering together to check that everyone was safe. Clara felt exhausted but proud. She had seen firsthand what it meant to stand up in the face of danger, to help where she could, and to trust in the people around her. In the days following the incident, Clara continued to learn from Jake. He showed her how to read the signs of trouble before they became serious, how to approach situations calmly, and how to support others even when she felt uncertain. She also observed how the townspeople worked together, realizing that courage and kindness often went hand in hand. Jake's quiet leadership had inspired them, and she felt lucky to witness it. One afternoon, Clara and Jake walked through the town square discussing what had happened. "You did well," Jake said, smiling at her. "You kept your head, helped when you could, and learned quickly. That's important out here." Clara blushed slightly. "I couldn't have done it without watching you," she replied. She realized that she had been nervous and unsure at first, but Jake's calm presence had given her the confidence to act. She felt grateful for his guidance and for the trust he had shown in her. Jake looked around the town, his expression thoughtful. "The West isn't just about facing danger," he said. "It's about learning from it, helping each other, and growing stronger together." "You've already shown that you understand that." Clara smiled, feeling a sense of pride and belonging. She realized that she had changed in a few short days. The town, the people, and the experiences had taught her lessons she would carry for the rest of her life. That evening, as Clara returned to her room, she reflected on the events of the day. She had seen fear, courage, and determination all in one afternoon. She had witnessed people working together, protecting their home, and standing up against danger. And she had learned that strength wasn't always measured by size or skill. It was also measured by heart, patience, and the willingness to act when needed. As night fell over the town, Clara thought about the journey ahead. She knew that more challenges would come, that life in the Wild West would continue to test her courage and resolve. But she also knew that she was not alone. Jake, the townspeople, and the connections she was building would guide her, teach her, and help her grow. She felt a sense of excitement and readiness, knowing that each day brought new lessons and experiences. Before falling asleep, Clara thought about the moment she had first met Jake, when she had commented on his height. That simple remark had started something much larger, a connection, a friendship, and a series of experiences that were shaping her in ways she had never expected. She realized that life was full of surprises, and that sometimes the most important lessons came from moments of challenge, courage, and trust. With that thought, Clara drifted into a deep sleep, dreaming of the adventures yet to come, the people she would meet, and the strength she would continue to discover within herself. The town was quiet, the wind rustled through the fields, and the stars shone brightly above the Wild West, promising more lessons, more stories, and more moments of courage for those willing to face them. The morning air was crisp and carried the faint scent of dust and grass. Clara awoke with a mixture of anticipation and anxiety. She knew the gang might return, and the town had been preparing for this moment for days. Today felt different, heavier somehow, as if the tension that had been building in the town was finally reaching its peak. Clara quickly got dressed and joined the townspeople, who were already moving with a purposeful energy. There was no panic, only determination. Jake was there, calm and focused, speaking quietly to the sheriff and a few trusted townsfolk. Clara approached him, feeling a sense of reassurance just by being near him. "Are we ready?" she asked softly. Jake nodded. "We've done all we can. Now it's just a matter of staying steady and helping each other. Remember what I taught you. Stay calm, keep your eyes open, and don't panic." Clara took a deep breath, feeling both nervous and ready. She realized that courage wasn't the absence of fear, it was acting even when fear was present. As the sun climbed higher, a distant cloud of dust appeared on the horizon. The gang was approaching. Clara felt her pulse quicken, but she reminded herself to stay composed. The townspeople moved into their positions. Farmers and merchants stood near the barricades they had prepared, while others guided animals and families to safety. Children were safely inside the inn, and everyone who could fight or help was ready. Clara took her place near a fence, her eyes fixed on the approaching riders. She watched as Jake stepped forward, his tall figure a commanding presence, yet he moved with measured care. The gang rode into the outskirts of town, shouting and waving their weapons. Their leader, a rough man with a scar across his cheek, sneered as he surveyed the town. He underestimated the preparation and the unity of the townspeople. Jake moved confidently, speaking firmly but calmly, warning them to leave before things got worse. The gang hesitated for a moment, and Clara saw a flicker of uncertainty in their eyes. It was the first sign that Jake's presence alone commanded respect, even from men who had caused trouble for others without hesitation. Suddenly, the gang split into two groups. One group tried to rush past the barricades to reach the town square, while the other attempted to create a distraction. Clara's heart pounded as she watched the chaos unfold. She remembered Jake's lessons and stayed alert. She moved quickly, helping guide townsfolk to safer positions and making sure animals were secure. She realized that everyone had a role to play, no matter how small, and that her contributions mattered. Courage, she understood, was not only about facing danger directly, it was also about supporting those around you. Jake confronted the group trying to push through the barricades. His height and calm authority seemed to daunt them. He spoke clearly, giving them warnings, and when words failed, he acted decisively to block their path without causing unnecessary harm. Clara watched, amazed at his skill. He didn't rely solely on force. He relied on presence, intelligence, and quick thinking. The gang tried to push past him, but his strategy, combined with the townspeople's efforts, forced them back. Clara felt a surge of admiration. She understood now why the townspeople respected him so deeply. Meanwhile, the second group of gang members attempted to sneak around to create confusion. Clara noticed them approaching and quickly alerted a few townsfolk nearby. Together, they managed to redirect the intruders, guiding them away from families and livestock. Clara felt a mix of adrenaline and focus. She realized that being part of a community meant acting for the good of everyone, not just oneself. The sense of teamwork and trust in the town was inspiring, and she felt proud to be contributing in her own way. The confrontation grew more intense. The gang tried multiple times to break through, but each attempt was met with resistance. Jake moved seamlessly among the townspeople, offering guidance and encouragement. His presence brought a sense of calm amidst the chaos. Clara noticed how even those who were nervous or unsure seemed steadier when he was near. It wasn't just his size that mattered, it was the way he led, the confidence he radiated, and the quiet courage he inspired in others. After what felt like hours, though it was likely much less, the gang began to realize that the town was prepared, organized, and united. Their confidence waned, and the leader shouted in frustration. Jake, sensing their weakening resolve, moved strategically to block their retreat path, ensuring they could not regroup easily. Clara watched in awe. She had seen stories of heroism before, but witnessing it in real life, in the dusty streets of the town, was unlike anything she had imagined. Courage, she understood, could change the outcome of even the most dangerous situations. Finally, the gang, realizing that they could not succeed, retreated. The townspeople let out a collective sigh of relief. Families emerged from their hiding places, children ran to their parents, and the townsfolk gathered to check for any injuries. Clara felt a mix of exhaustion and elation. She had seen danger, faced uncertainty, and contributed in her own small way, and the town had survived because everyone worked together. Jake approached Clara, smiling but still serious. "You did well," he said. "You stayed calm, helped others, and kept your head. That's exactly what's needed in times like this." Clara blushed, feeling a sense of pride. She realized that she had grown through this experience, learning lessons about courage, teamwork, and the importance of acting even when unsure. The events of the day had changed her, making her stronger and more confident. As the town began to settle, people started sharing their experiences of the confrontation. Stories of bravery and quick thinking spread quickly. Clara listened as townsfolk recounted moments when neighbors had helped each other, when someone had blocked the gang's path, or when families had kept calm in the face of danger. She realized that heroism was not always about grand gestures. It was also about small actions, kindness, and vigilance. Everyone had played a part, and the town had survived because of it. That evening, the sun set over the town, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Clara walked through the streets, taking in the scene. The town was alive with relief and gratitude, but also a renewed sense of unity. People greeted each other warmly, checking that everyone was safe and sharing a quiet celebration of survival. Clara felt a deep sense of belonging. She had witnessed fear and courage, chaos and calm, and had learned the true meaning of community. She paused near the saloon, reflecting on the events of the day. She thought about the moment she had first met Jake, how startled she had been by his height, and how little she had known then about his character and bravery. Now, after facing danger together, she understood the depth of his strength, not just physical, but emotional and moral. Clara realized that some people inspired others without needing to speak loudly, and Jake was one of those rare individuals. As night fell, Clara returned to her room, exhausted but fulfilled. She lay on the small bed, thinking about what she had experienced. The confrontation had been terrifying, but it had also been enlightening. She had learned about bravery, the importance of preparation, and the value of trusting others. More importantly, she had seen how a community could come together in the face of danger, turning fear into strength. Before drifting off to sleep, Clara thought about the days ahead. She knew that life in the Wild West would continue to bring challenges and surprises, but she felt ready. She had grown, learned, and contributed, and she knew that the experiences she had gained today would guide her in the future. She felt a deep sense of gratitude for the town, for the people, and for Jake, whose calm presence and courage had made all the difference. Clara closed her eyes, imagining the adventures that awaited her. She knew that she had found something more than just excitement in the Wild West. She had found courage, friendship, and a sense of belonging. And she understood now that even the most dangerous moments could reveal strength and heroism, both in others and in herself. After the chaos of the previous day, the town slowly returned to its normal rhythm. The streets, once filled with tension and fear, now hummed with the quiet sounds of life, horses walking calmly, merchants arranging their goods, and children running freely in the town square. Clara walked along the wooden sidewalks, feeling a mixture of relief and pride. She knew that the confrontation with the gang had changed the town in many ways, but it had also changed her. She had discovered courage she didn't know she had, learned to act under pressure, and experienced the power of community in action. Clara noticed Jake standing near the saloon, speaking quietly with the sheriff. He looked calm, his tall figure a reassuring presence in the sunlit square. As she approached him, he turned and gave her a small smile. "Morning, Clara," he said. "How are you feeling after yesterday?" She smiled back, a little tired but filled with satisfaction. "Better," she replied. "I feel stronger somehow, and grateful for you and for the town." Jake nodded thoughtfully. "It was everyone together that made it work. You played your part too. That's what matters most." The day passed with the townspeople checking fences, securing livestock, and repairing minor damage caused by the gang's attempted attack. Clara worked alongside them, carrying buckets, helping to lift supplies, and learning practical skills she had never imagined she could do. She was no longer just an observer. She had become part of the rhythm of the town, and that gave her a sense of belonging she had longed for since arriving in the Wild West. By mid-afternoon, Jake led Clara to the edge of town, where the plains stretched wide and the horizon seemed endless. "I want to show you something," he said. Clara followed, curious. They stopped on a small rise overlooking the fields and the town below. The view was breathtaking. The sun cast long golden shadows across the landscape, and the town looked peaceful, almost serene. "This is why we protect this place," Jake said quietly. "It's not just buildings and animals, it's people, families, and the lives we build together. And now you understand a little of what it means to be part of that." Clara felt a deep sense of connection. She realized that the town, its people, and the experiences she had shared were becoming a part of who she was. As the evening approached, the townspeople gathered in the saloon to celebrate their safety and resilience. There was laughter, music from the piano, and the smell of freshly baked bread and roasted meat. Clara found herself in a corner, watching the joyful scene unfold. Families shared stories, and even Jake allowed himself a small smile as he interacted with the townsfolk. Clara noticed that respect and admiration were present in every glance, every word spoken about him. But she also saw that it wasn't just his size or skill that inspired them. It was his kindness, his steady guidance, and the way he made people feel capable and important. Clara soon joined a group of townspeople telling stories of bravery and clever thinking from the previous day. She shared her own experiences, explaining how she had helped guide others to safety and stayed calm during the confrontation. The townsfolk listened intently, nodding and smiling in encouragement. Clara felt proud, knowing that her actions, though small, had contributed to the town's safety. For the first time, she understood that courage came in many forms, not just in facing danger directly, but also in helping, supporting, and staying composed when others needed guidance. As the night wore on, Clara found herself sitting quietly near Jake, who had stepped aside from the crowd. "You did well," he said softly, not as praise but as a recognition of her growth. Clara looked at him, feeling a mixture of gratitude and admiration. "I couldn't have done it without seeing how you acted," she replied. "You made me realize what it means to stay calm and help others. You showed me courage in action, not just words." Jake nodded. "That's what life here teaches us. The West can be harsh and unpredictable, but it also shows the best in people, and you've shown that you can rise to the challenge." For the first time, Clara felt a true sense of belonging. She realized that the town, with its dusty streets and hardworking people, had become a home in a way she hadn't expected. The experiences she had shared, the danger, the preparation, the teamwork, had shaped her in ways she could not yet fully understand. She had come to the West seeking adventure, but she had found something even more valuable: a community, courage, and a connection that went beyond mere friendship. In the following days, life in the town settled into a comforting routine. Clara continued to learn from Jake, exploring the surrounding fields, helping with chores, and observing the skills needed to live in the Wild West. She learned to ride horses with more confidence, mend fences, and understand the subtle signs of nature that could warn of trouble. Each day brought new lessons, and she embraced them with curiosity and determination. Jake was patient, guiding her without rushing or pressuring, allowing her to grow at her own pace. Clara also began to understand the deeper bonds within the town. Neighbors looked out for each other, shared their knowledge, and celebrated small victories together. She realized that life in the West was about more than survival. It was about connection, trust, and mutual support. Jake's example had shown her that true strength came from these qualities, and she felt inspired to continue learning and contributing. One afternoon, as the sun dipped low in the sky, Clara and Jake walked along a quiet trail outside the town. The field stretched endlessly, and the wind carried the faint scent of wildflowers and grass. "You've grown a lot since you arrived," Jake said, "not just in skill, but in understanding. You've learned to see courage, kindness, and community in ways many people never do." Clara smiled, feeling a deep sense of fulfillment. "I've learned that life isn't just about facing danger," she replied. "It's about how we act, how we support others, and how we find our place in the world. And you helped me see that." Jake nodded, looking thoughtful. Sometimes the smallest things, like your surprise at my height, can lead to the biggest lessons. Life is full of unexpected moments, and it's how we respond that defines us. Clara laughed softly, remembering the first time she had spoken to him in the saloon. That simple comment had started a journey that had transformed her understanding of courage, friendship, and belonging. As the stars appeared one by one in the night sky, Clara felt a sense of peace. She knew that the Wild West would continue to present challenges, but she felt ready. She had grown stronger, braver, and wiser, and she had experienced the power of community and teamwork firsthand. She had also discovered a connection with Jake that went beyond admiration, one built on trust, respect, and shared experiences. In the following weeks, Clara continued to integrate herself into the town. She helped organize community events, assisted in repairing homes and fences, and spent time learning from Jake and the townspeople. Each day brought new lessons, new moments of courage, and new opportunities to grow. Clara felt a sense of purpose and belonging that she had never known before. The town had become a home, and its people had become her family. Through all of this, Clara understood a simple but profound truth. Life was unpredictable, full of challenges, and often demanding. But it was also full of kindness, courage, and connection. She realized that first impressions, like noticing Jake's height, were only the beginning. True understanding, growth, and friendship came from shared experiences, mutual support, and the willingness to face life together, even when the path was uncertain. Clara's journey in the Wild West had started with curiosity and adventure, but it had grown into something far richer. She had discovered her own strength, witnessed courage in others, and learned the importance of community and trust. She had found friendship, mentorship, and a sense of belonging that she would carry with her for the rest of her life. And most importantly, she had discovered that even in the face of danger and uncertainty, life could offer lessons, growth, and moments of joy that were worth every challenge. As Clara looked out over the town one evening, the golden light of sunset reflecting off the wooden buildings, she felt a deep sense of gratitude. She knew that her journey had only just begun, that more adventures and challenges awaited, but she felt ready. She had learned to trust herself, to act with courage, and to value the connections she had made. The Wild West had given her not just stories of danger and excitement, but also the chance to discover who she truly was and what she was capable of. Clara closed her eyes and took a deep breath, letting the warm evening air fill her lungs. She felt a quiet joy, knowing that she had faced fear, embraced challenge, and found belonging. And she knew that whatever came next, whether danger, adventure, or simple moments of everyday life, she would meet it with courage, kindness, and the knowledge that she was never truly alone. The town, the people, and Jake had taught her that. And with that lesson in her heart, Clara smiled, ready to embrace the future with hope, strength, and gratitude.